having had a lot of history in the theater myself, I just kind of wanted to ask you about the importance of improv to you in your life.
It's everything. I mean, for me, improv is life and life is improv. I think every human being should take improv. I think every kid absolutely should take improv. Improv teaches some really great lessons. It teaches how to listen to other people, how to not judge others. Because if you judge someone, then when you walk on stage with them in an improv environment, the experience will not be successful because you're thinking about judging the other person as opposed to just accepting them who they are,
Right.
and kind of working with whatever they give you to create something collaboratively together. It teaches you also how to not judge yourself, because there's no way you can walk up in front of a live audience with no rehearsal or not knowing what you're going to do and just be vulnerable, because you're not always going to get a good response from an audience. And what you have to kind of get used to is that it's not a judgment on yourself. There is no good, for me at least, there's no good or bad in improv. There's just the experience of doing it. And once you start labeling it as good or bad, then you start judging it. So it's really just the experience. You just did it. I just did improv. We don't have to discuss whether it's good or bad. And those are good lessons, especially as an actor, because, there's only so much you have control over, right? Like, so when you go into an audition, you can only bring your best self, and you can only do your best. And you might be the best actor for the role, but there's so many other elements that come into play when casting a role that are completely out of your hands. And all you can really control is doing your best. And if you allow the industry to kind of judge you, and that if you don't book something and you hang your hat on your number of bookings, well, then you're judging yourself, and it's going to be a long road. And so improv for me was an opportunity. Improv really was where I started even understanding that I was going to be a storyteller. I mean, I worked in corporate up until that point, and I showed up at an improv theater just by chance. My friends took me there for my birthday, and I fell in love with what was going on and the environment and what they were doing on stage. And I said, I gotta try that. And I had to audition for class, and I had never auditioned for anything. I had never even performed anything. I think I was the master of ceremonies in a third grade play. And that was it. And then in seventh grade, every student was required to do a Shakespeare play or a Shakespeare monologue. And I remember I did that in class. And so I never knew I was going to be a performer until I walked into improv. And the only way I can explain is that doing improv and really buying into the ideas of being present, being focused, and being relaxed changed the chemistry in my brain. I went from being very kind of like structurally oriented and like kind of operationally or product driven to being process driven, and being able to think outside the box, and just, instead of saying why, I would say why not. And that's a really good shift for me in kind of how I approach life and how I approach things. And it changed the way I viewed the world. It changed the way I viewed myself. And it really was kind of like the door that opened everything for me as far as becoming a storyteller.